Now it is time to have the answers to our questions which comes in our minds. The experts of their field will share their views. It is time for panel discussion, where the eminent masters will discuss on the topic, happiness is our birthright and we will have it. In the panel we have Dr. Srilata Varapravan. She completed a medical training in India and residency training in psychiatry in Western University, London. Dr. Srilata won the Coolidge Award for Excellence in Leadership in 2020. Dr. Varapravan is an active member of the Indo-Canadian community in London, volunteering her time for various service projects, including serving as the president of Chinmay Mission, London. Our next panelist is Dr. Subramanian. He is the New Age Yoga spiritual master with a mission to transform life through traditional wisdom in modern times. He has obtained his doctorate in Yoga Spirituality from Hindu University of America, a recipient of many prestigious awards like TV Kapali Shastri Award. In this panel, we also have Madhurika Arvind. She conducts yoga sessions for adults in New Jersey. She is a volunteer at Chinmay Mission Vrindavan Center Bal Vihar program since 2010, working with toddlers and pre-kindergarten children, teaching them about South Asian culture, spiritual awareness and mind control. Madhurika ji is the founding member of Project Self in Corporation USA. Our next panelist is Mr. Gaston Peccani. He has his expertise in the mastering of emotional integration and creator of the feeling technology, a method that in 7 simple and effective steps helps you to transform your uncomfortable emotions into your inner power. His Sharing Clarity project has been shared already in 12 countries in 4 languages. Today, Gaston proposes Sharing Clarity, a new paradigm for the expansion of consciousness. This method consists of embracing our own emotions in a conscious manner, increasing our inner space. The moderator of the panel discussion will be Dr. Vikrant Singh Tomar, founder director Project Self USA and Bharat, and convener United Consciousness. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome all the dignitaries of panel discussion.
Namaste, everybody. Heartily welcome. What a wonderful day today and what a wonderful topic to discuss. So the topic of our discussion today is happiness is my birthright and I will have it. I acknowledge presence of Dr. Srilata from Canada. I acknowledge presence of Gaston Peccani from Argentina. I acknowledge presence of Yogacharya Dr. Subramaniam from India. And I do acknowledge presence of Madhurika Arvind from USA. All of you heartily welcome. So dear friends, before we seek the answer of the question that happiness is my birthright and I will have it, let's question the question itself. Is happiness really my birthright? I was reading an article somewhere that an experiment was done in some of the Western countries. A monkey was given peanuts. So when he was offered peanuts, his dopamine was increasing till he was offered it. And the moment he started eating, it was still increasing. And the moment he consumed the peanuts, it fell down. So is it like that till we don't get something, our dopamine keeps on increasing? And the moment we eat it, we consume, we get it, and it falls suddenly. So my question is, are we destined to be happy or doomed physically not to be happy? Who can talk better about it than a doctor herself? So Dr. Srilata, my question will be, what is this dopamine? How it is connected with happiness? And what is the monkey story all about?
Namaste all. Thank you, Vikrantji, and so happy to be here. So thank you for inviting me. So dopamine is actually a very interesting chemical. So I can maybe give an example that all of us can relate to, although we're all monkeys too in some way or the other. So we all have this third hand, right? So every time we keep looking at it, like, scrolling, turning it off and then go back and keep looking. we never stop to think as to why we do it. 99 times out of 100, there's nothing interesting there. But there's a one odd chance that somebody may have liked your Facebook post, or maybe there's a message that, that's something interesting. And that's what keeps you hooked. And that's what dopamine does, because it works on the reward and the pleasure mechanism. And yes, happiness is related to that. So I can speak to maybe from my experience as a psychiatrist. We see mental illness very strongly connected with dopamine. And when there's low levels of dopamine, what happens is that it affects one person's ability to enjoy life, ability to find pleasure in activities. They have low motivation. They have no interest in anything, right? And that causes depression. Having said that, it's very important to understand that depression, or for that matter, any mental illness, is not just because of a chemical imbalance. So there's dopamine, there's serotonin, norepinephrine, there are other chemicals, but also we tend to think of it as like biological factors, psychological factors, social factors. So biological factors being the neurotransmitters, your family history, your genetics, and all of that. But the psychological factors are your early childhood experiences that kind of define who you are and how you perceive yourself and the world around you. And then there are social factors where, outside of home, like, school and education and employment and all of that. And then there's a spiritual component, right? So to your question, is happiness a birthright? Absolutely, happiness is a birthright. I think that's what we've heard from all our experts this morning. But when it comes to mental illness, sometimes it's not a choice. Like, even if they want to be happy, there are certain things that's going on that's kind of preventing that. So it's important to recognize that it's, when someone is mild to moderate levels of illness, there are things we can do, like we talked about yoga and meditation and all that. But when someone is very severely mentally ill, we do need to look into other options of treatment.
Perfect. So Dr. Srilatha tell us that happiness is our birthright, but there are certain snatchers of it. Those may come from any moment, any part. They may be some transmitters, neurotransmitters, maybe genetics, maybe some grooming that we got, some childhood experiences, social factors, spiritual dimension also are connected with it. And dopamine it works on pleasure principle, that if you see mobile 100 times, and if one time something interesting pops up, then you are satisfied. And for getting that one time, you see it for 100 times. That's great. So Lataji mentioned something about childhood experiences. We have Dr. Madhulika with us. She has been training many kids of this tender age group. So I would request Madhulika ji can you please elaborate on this, that if happiness is my birthright, and as can be visibly seen also, a child generally is very happy. What happens, when happens, and how it happens that birthright is snatched?
Thank you. That's a brilliant question. And I think, that's the root of all of understanding itself, is the child and how the child evolves and changes over years. And what happens, like we've been hearing through this entire morning, actually, about how we are innately born joyous. We are happy people, and we tend to want to bounce back to that. That is just natural. That's exactly what a child is. And then what happens along the way? It is nature and nurture that then gets involved in the process. So some of it is lost over, if you see, I think, a young child is able to bounce back and be innately happy really quickly. And along the way, you kind of feed the child with what is required out of them, what does success mean to them, what are they required to achieve, and things of this sort. We tend to start to build in them as parents sometimes, as your society around you. This is kind of these are the messages given to you by media, and the child slowly starts to seek that validation, that acceptance, and tends to start growing in that direction. And that then stops him or her from bouncing back to that innately joyous, happy place. And that is what we are trying to untangle here, to teach them that you can stay happy because that is your innate form and that's where we want to be. And how do we keep harnessing that situation, and how to kind of stop believing in some of these things that we hear around us, to stop ourselves from getting sucked into what society is feeding us, and to stay grounded, to stay rooted, and to stay to your natural state. I think that is the biggest challenge, but at the same time, one of the most, I think the children and the young teens are the ones that we can really work with and teach them to then grow up to be those happy, joyous adults that we want to become.
Perfect, perfect. So Madhulika ji said that they are by default joyous, but maybe by their nurture, maybe by parents, by society, somehow they are taught you can't be happy just like that. You need to have these things to be happy, and then probably they start seeking validation, seeking acceptance from people around to be happy in that. So what is this seeking of acceptance from others? Why do we need it? Why do I want to be appreciated? From where did it come? Like, for example, a small child, that child is so happy in himself or herself. From where this need arises that I want validation from everybody else? The emotion of being appreciated, then only I am good. If people won't appreciate, I am not good. Gestonji, over to you. Why do I need acknowledgement, appreciation, recognition? Then only I will feel good about myself. Why? You may need to unmute. In 2020, the largest number of times a single word spoken was unmute. Unmute yourself.
Thank you, Vikranji, and thank you for the invitation to the United Consciousness, and happy day, International Happy Day. It's very important what you say, and I would like to add this: in different cultures, to be accepted, to be loved, has different meanings. So actually, there is different patterns in our subconscious that create this contraction. And what we share with the feeling technology is that we can discover these patterns that it is in my unconscious, and I utilize my body, my smart body, to develop where is this pattern and where is this contraction in my body. Because let's see in this way, if there is a contraction, I feel no happy. But if there is no contraction, I feel happy. I feel open. I feel in a flow. So the key here is it doesn't matter from which country we are coming from, which culture we are coming from, which language, something cross all of us, and this contraction. So my invitation to everybody is to learn why is happening this, take the responsibility of the contraction, understanding the intelligence of our body is like a yoga process with breathing. And I love to do this. If you see me, I have a contraction here, in my chest, for example, because I don't get validation. So instead of trying to put it out or put some alcohol, drugs, or whatever in order to avoid them, just to develop a relationship. Hi, Gaston. Hello. Nice to see you. And this is my emotion, and this is my contraction. And when I wake up and I realize that instead of trying to put it out or to push it down with drugs, alcohol, or whatever, entertainment, I open my heart, I open my arms, and I embrace my little Gaston, my little part that feels not understood, not recognized, not listened, and all these things. And when I do this with emotional integration, with this technique, I need to have a yes to take all this part of myself, because all this conditioning is not only from my family, it's coming from thousands of years. If you don't do this, or if you don't get that, if you don't have this wealth, you are not worth enough. And this is not true. Once we start to open ourselves and to utilize this technology and embrace it, the whole system starts to recycle. So when this is what it happened to me, and to all the people that I'm sharing different part of the world. For example, the last 7 years, my body, because I embrace my emotions, start to live with more energy. All this energy that was creating the contraction, once I accept it and I let it in instead of trying to push it out, start to recycle. And this life energy, this prana, helps me to put less food in my mouth. So I am drinking juices only for 7 years and doing more sports. And for example, if you take this with consciousness, it's not only about food, it's only about understanding. You have mental clarity, you can make better decisions. And also, when you are in balance with your emotions, you can relate with your beloved, with the people around you on a more lovely way. And when you expand your consciousness, as you say before, go in the trip, say the branch, when we expand our consciousness, we can share my own clarity with the people around me. And let's go all together as a human family, expand all as this consciousness and share with inner space. And that's all. And happiness happen itself. So
thank you, Gastonji. So rightly he mentioned that. I asked him, why do we need appreciation? And he said, look, it's not a small thing. It's been since generations. So probably we are the victim of the victims. This is what our parents were told, and then parent told to their kids and their kids. And this is how it has been since generations. And then we were unable to express ourselves. And Gaston said, look, if you find a blockage, talk to yourself. If you have a contraction, talk to yourself. Distraction is no dissolution. Indeed, whatever you resist shall persist. So you talk to yourself, and then, because energy blocks will convert into physical contraction and physical blocks. That's amazing thing that you said, that this conditional love and affection really snatches the happiness from the kids, and then we grow up like this. Let's try to have a yogic perspective from a yogacharya about it. So enough of science. Now let's go to what yoga has to say. Yoga itself is a science of human life. So what yoga has to say about this conditional upbringing and coloring and this need for appreciation.
Thank you, Vikrantji, for having me here, and a happy day for all the participants and for all of us. And glad to be part of this wonderful panel. And I think much is already spoken about yoga. I've been hearing all great masters, my own Guruji and all, and friends like Ravindraji, all speaking about yoga a lot. And of course, in the yogic perspective, happiness is not just my birthright, but I'm born with happiness. I am born with happiness. I am that happiness. So it's not something separate that I need to acquire, and it is already there in me. And all that I need to do is to recognize that. So in this perspective, when we look into this, so this recognition, what we are talking about is something quite natural, which is definitely there within all of us. And I don't think that it has to come from somewhere externally, that it could be a family influence, or it could be influence of a generation or something. Quite natural that as when the child is born, so this wanting of having this recognition, and then through which there is a sense of happiness, is quite spontaneous, of course. And that has to be not just recognized by the individual, but also the environment where he or she is growing as a child is coming up. So that environment, recognizing that happiness is very important, and catering to that through various things. So yoga has a lot of techniques wherein this inborn happiness is brought out so that you experience that. It's already there within, but to make it better experiential, so there are a lot of techniques. Of course, meditation itself is something very important. And we have the concept of the bhakti yoga, and bringing in all this philosophical understanding into a practical application through Kriya yoga. We have something called the Kriya yoga, where through a playway method, bringing all these concepts of yoga, asanas, it could be, or it could be the meditation and the prana, the pranic flow about which he spoke just now. So the energy which can be very well brought out through the Kriya Yoga, which is yoga in the playway method. So all this caters to this. So in understanding this want of recognition and manifesting it and experiencing the happiness, which is not just our birthright, but we are born with that. We are that. So yoga has a lot of things to add to that.
Thank you.
We
So
can discuss about
Subramanian ji said that we are not only born with happiness, we are happiness. Now the question comes is, as we discuss about need for validation, need for acceptance, and Gestranji also mentioned it's been since generations. It has been a genetic flaw at times, we talk about it. So I call something called good boy syndrome. In Hindi, Raja Beta syndrome. Like in homes, particularly in Indian homes, who is a good boy who listens to the parents? And then who is a good boy in school who listens to the teachers? Who is a good boy in college who listens to the professors? And who is the good boy in the job who listens to the boss? So this thing that I want to be good boy, and in order to good boy, I need to comply. How teens see this, because compliance and teens, they don't go well with each other. Teens are rebels. They are seen as rebels world over, irrespective of the culture, whether the rebellion is expressed or not expressed. But yes, teens are rebel world over, across the cultures. So this compliance and teens, Dr. Srilatha, you have been working in hospitals. You must be dealing with many teens. What are the teens of our times, and what are their general problems connected with compliance also?
I've been dealing with that at home too, because I have two teenagers at home. So I think it's important to understand, like, maybe we can think of it in like three parts, like what is going on with the teenagers at that age, right? So if you take from a very psychological perspective, maybe Dr. Arvind can speak more about this. Erikson is a psychologist who talks about stages of development. At that age, they are actually developing a sense of identity. And when that is not developed properly, it leads to a lot of confusion. So you may think that you have a lot of influence on your child. You want your Raja Beta and you want your child to be a good boy. But at that age, the child's influence is more from peers, from social influences, from societal trends, pop culture. All of these things play a significant role on what's happening. And they are actually rebelling. A little bit of rebel is actually good because they're developing that sense of identity. So it's again a matter of being able to appreciate, like, what is normal behavior, whereas where is this actually crossing a line? And they need to explore. They need to explore responsibility to establish that sense of identity, right? Once things cross the line, that's when, like as Gastonji was saying, like, people tend to kind of internalize their problems. They tend to kind of develop depression, anxiety, those eating disorders, gender identity disorders, or they start externalizing self-harm behaviors. They become very violent, impulsive, reckless. Suicide is a huge risk, and it's actually the second leading cause of death in that age group. So we have to be very careful. So those are the problems, I guess, we can see. So what can we do? Two things, I guess. One is definitely be aware of what's going on. And if you see these issues, do get help for the child. That's very important. The second thing is be proactive. Even before your child gets to that point, what can we do? I would say, you don't overprotect your children. Like, let them explore things responsibly. Let them make mistakes. It's okay. And let them learn from those experiences. Create avenues for them where they have, they can explore other interests, like, music, dance, photography, whatever, right? Other things that they want to do. Teach them good coping skills. Like, we talked about yoga, meditation, connect them with groups. Always be careful about their peers and the support groups that they're associating with. So try to create, more satsangs or more, healthier peer groups that they can associate with, and also create opportunities where they can give back to the community, get involved in the community programs and things like that. This will establish a sense of self, and then you actually validate them, you encourage them. Don't do helicopter parenting. At that point, I think you have to be more careful about the outside influences and what's going on. And of course, be a role model for your child. That's where I would end it.
Perfect, perfect. So, Dr. Srilatha has rightly said that you need to be aware about how child is developing, and if needed, we should seek help. Madhulika ji, in teenage, what are the general stressors of kids? And second question would be, do they feel comfortable in seeking help? So what are the general stressors in teenage, and do they really seek help?
It's a very, very, I think, a very relevant question, especially in today's day and age, where I think our children have been stuck in this pandemic indoors and kind of driving them crazy and nuts. So, I think that is an added stress to everything else that they experience at this age. I think the biggest stressor for them is that, just piggybacking on what Dr. Srilatha just said, is that this is the age where the child is kind of learning to identify who he is. He's separating himself with that merged identity with the parent and establishing that individuality. That comes with a lot of exploration, and it takes time. It takes all of us the time to understand who we are and who we are growing up to be. And then the pressure comes from, again, around us, whether it being school, parents, peers, just society in general, pushing you to identify, to realize, and to decide on what your future is going to be. Your decision today is going to dictate what the next 40 years of your life is going to be. And when you think of it as a 16-year-old, that's a whole lot of pressure. And that is a big stressor in their life, obviously trying to realize who they are and the direction that they want to go. And that then, along with finding their identity, fitting into groups, making sure they make the right connections in their peer groups, being accepted. Again, we go back to that validation and acceptance, being able to fit in. All of these things independently start to add that stress to that child's life. And then how are we going to now teach them to deal with this? I think that is a very, very important question. And I think, there are 6 different things that I usually talk to when I talk to my teens, is that if you practice this, and I think even as adults, this is just something that is brilliant for us to keep in mind. I think start with, practicing random acts of kindness. And kindness doesn't have to be going out there and doing something kind. It could be just having a kind word. Now, this is something for a teenager. Words are difficult. Realizing something beyond themselves is difficult. Appreciating something becomes a little tricky. So just force yourself to do those random acts of kindness by words even. It's great. Volunteer to help others. I think that is thinking beyond yourself, right? We are so consumed with the I, just moving out of that, and even starting as young as teens, going out there and volunteering just so that you can help others. Not that you're trying to gather volunteer hours to graduate high school or try to achieve a certificate. None of that. Just so that you feel good. That generates your dopamine right there when you do something good towards somebody. I think that's an excellent thing to do. Maintain a gratitude journal. Look within yourself and try to see what are the things that you're grateful for today in your life, rather than getting attached to what are the things we need to achieve to get that happiness or achieve that happiness in our life. So maintain a gratitude journal. Say a thank you to what we have today. Forgive quickly and with meaning. I think this is a very, very important thing. You do not want to go through life holding on to grudges and feeling terrible about it, because the only person it harms is you. So teaching them young to forgive quickly and with meaning is very, very important. The other thing that I do oftentimes with my teens and in my classes is practicing mindfulness, enjoying this moment that we truly are in, rather than we tend to start thinking about the future, what is to be, how is it going to be. Let's just enjoy this moment truly, and that kind of gives us a sense of where we are and where we are going. and try to be the best version of yourself. Try not to compare yourself. I think this is there in, high pressure society, the generation that we are dealing with. The children already have enough and more that they're competing with and competing against. Let's try not to compare ourselves and just try to be the best version of who we are and try to better ourselves from today to tomorrow and that kind of a thing. I think
Perfect.
that's
Very
where
experiential points you raised, Madhurika ji. Now, Gaston ji, she said something very important and very difficult at the same time. She said something very difficult, forgiving quickly. Wow. It is so good to listen. Even for adults, it's very difficult to forgive people easily. And in fact, kids forgive people easily, but adults, it's more difficult for forgive people. I want you, your expertise, to throw some light upon. Whole world is watching us. I want world to learn from you today, Gaston ji, how to forgive people. That person has hurt me so much. Come on, I trusted him so much. Even relationship issues in teens. I loved her so much. I trusted her so much. And look what she has done to me. How can I forgive her? And why should I forgive her or him? Either case. Carry on.
Okay, I will go there, but just I would like to put something before about parenting and teenagers, because I am also a father and I have a daughter 15 years old, and thank you to put this issue in this conference because it's so important. And I would like to add this beautiful sharing with this beautiful woman is that we need to support our teenagers. So we need to understand this. Teenagers means that I am growing, I am allowing my spirit to come out to the world, and I am start to hitting the mental structures that are all these times putting on the culture. So a teenager is the first moment in our life that we start to feel under pressure. So if we would like to be a parent with consciousness, we need to understand this process, support this process, and be also with this suicide, being with them without judging. That is very, very difficult. It's because I am a father and I would like that my kid goes in this way because I think it's the best way that he has to go, and that is a problem. One of the biggest problems that the teenagers have is the mental structure of the parents. So this is an invitation to everybody to get the next level of parenting in consciousness, where we first learn how these emotions generate contractions in myself because of my teenager or my children do this, and I grow up first. And second, I generate the space where my son or my daughter can be here within me without being judged, without doing something that he can get my love. We need to offer them this space. So this is so important, Vikranji. Thank you for putting this. And I invite the people to first work on themselves, the parents, and when we offer this, it's the best heritage that we can give to our children, and we start to change these patterns that are transmitting generation through generation. We stop it in ourselves and we give this to our children, and they feel safe. They feel understood and loved because daddy or mommy is not judging me because of anything. I am just exploring myself. But I wanted to put this seed also because it's
amazing, amazing. Perfect. But I will come back to you on how to forgive. But meanwhile, I won't forgive you for this. I will take that answer from you. So meanwhile, I will come to Subramaniam ji. Yogic perspective of happy living, irrespective of teen, adult, or any age group. Give us 3 or 4 strong tips from yoga perspective, how to lead a happy life.
Yes. The first and foremost thing that we need to understand is this 2 wonderful concept which the yoga philosophy teaches us. One is there are things that which can give us instant happiness, things which can give us instant pleasure, instant happiness, but that may not give you a long-term utility in life. So that's what the scriptures would call it as, the Upanishad would term it as the prayers. That which can give me, for example, eating a junk food for a teenager or for a child, it gives them instant pleasure and he wants it right now. or watching something he wanted in the television or something. So even for us, the grown-up, so that always happens. What we want right now, it may give us an instant pleasure, but it may not give us a long-term purpose than a utility or a pleasure. I would call it as a long-term purpose in life. And there are things which can, at this moment, it may not give you an immediate instant pleasure, but that would give you a lifelong purpose, that will give you a long-term happiness. So that's what we call it as the Shreyas, right from the Upanishads. So this is one basic understanding, that these two are there, which becomes a very good guiding force in life. The things which can give us instant pleasure, but they may not lead us for a long time. And things which may, for example, even yoga itself, for many, though we think yoga is a very attractive word, but the moment you have to go to a class, do there, physically straining yourself, and then dealing with the teacher, all those things, yes, it may not be immediate, but it will give you a long-term purpose and a better happiness. So this is something which we need to understand. Once we start looking into every action in our life, whether is it a Shreyas or a Preyas? Is it a Preyas or a Shreyas? This friendship, for example, this relationship, it could be, or every action. If we start looking into these two dimensions, so what it is, yes, I don't say that Preyas should not be there at all, but we need to accept that this is going to be temporary. This is not going to take me a long way ahead. But if I have to have a long-term sustained happiness and a better purpose, so I need to forbear the small difficulties which we may have to undergo. So as teenagers, for children, we need to teach them always there's something which can come in your life which is unexpected. So today's generation don't want to face this unexpected to come in their life. So that is where I think in parenting, it could be teachers as well as parents have to teach them. In life, all that you expect will not happen, will not come. So there is something which is, that's where we talk of, I don't want to bring in big concepts, but the karma and all those things, what we talk about. So there is something beyond our efforts, hidden forces are there, which can bring you something in life. So we should be prepared for this unexpected. So when suddenly something happens, so you're not shocked at it, rather accepting it, acceptance about which others also spoke about. So this acceptance comes naturally when you are trained to expect the unexpected. So I think the second important thing is that. And third is, of course, to let go. So which is the udasina bhava, as in the Gita, Krishna also talk about. So udasino gatavrataha. So just, yes, we need to keep things what is required and let go that which is not important for me in life.
Thank you, Subramaniam ji, for bringing us back to the same point. Let go. Again, we came to the same point. Forgiving.
Yes.
Letting it go. So beautifully, Gaston ji also mentioned about that. Look, teen is the age when you change the glasses. Now you want to wear your own glasses rather than your father's glass. And father's way and your way may be different. And then the father will start judging you because you don't see the way father is seeing. Then it becomes difficult and you need to create some space for kids. So that home should be a happy place. Then only they would like to stick to home. And we have Subramaniam ji who said that always be sure that you should be working for what is right rather than what feels good always. Because as Marshmallow Experiment, famous kid Marshmallow Experiment said that people who keep patience for future good, they generally do better in life. Acceptance and letting go. So I have two small questions from Madhulika ji, Srilatha ji and Gaston ji. Quick reflections in one-liner answers. Srilatha ji, you mentioned an important point. Be aware for the parent, for the kids or the teenagers. What are the symptoms as a parent I should be aware of to understand that my child's mental health is not right? It's a very specific question. Whole parents from all parts of the world are watching you. What are the symptoms I should be looking for as a parent to understand that my child's mental health is going in the wrong direction, probably? Over to you.
So again, it's a large topic. If you want just a one-liner, so I'll try to be concise. So again, look for internalizing symptoms where your child is isolating in the room, not coming out. The school grades are dropping. They're
Okay.
not going out and hanging out with friends. They're not taking interest in what they are usually doing. They're having sleep difficulties. All right.
Okay.
And then the other side that you may see is extreme anger, irritability, reckless behavior, self-harm behavior, those kinds of things.
Perfect. Perfect. So kind of you. So being so specific in mentioning that. So one question, a quick remark from you, Madhuji. You mentioned about being the best version of the self. So how to teach kids not to compare themselves against anybody else. So one liner, two bullet points as an answer.
Wow, again, a big topic, but let me try to do my best here. I think investing in yourself, meaning try to find what you are good at, what are you passionate about, and try to do the best in that to the best of your abilities. So you want to keep trying to build on what you already have rather than try to see if you are better than somebody else next to you. I think teaching them that is good for them for the rest of their life once they understand
Thank
that.
you very much. Gastonji, in two bullet points, very quick because we are finished with our time. The age-old question: how to forgive, how to let go. Two bullet points, no elaborations. Yep.
First, understanding. Forgiving is if I have to forgive, there is someone guilty. If there is someone guilty, it's because there is a rule somewhere in some head, could be my head, that someone is doing something wrong. So if I understand this mental judging generates a contraction, and if I learn to feel this contraction with consciousness, guilt disappears, this disappeared, forgiveness is not more needed, and I integrate all in my system. So this is an invitation to generate consciousness.
So beautifully, Gastonji said that forgiveness means somebody has done something wrong, and wrong and right is the definition of perception. And when I see that my way is the only way, and if a person is not doing my way, then he's wrong. So let's develop better understanding for that. Amazing answer. Thank you, Gastonji. So, dear friends, we had an esteemed panel here and we discussed a lot of different topics. So, just to quickly understand that happiness is our birthright. But what happens is over years, when we develop our separate identity, and then we try to disintegrate probably from the family or the parent, if not disintegrate, maybe redefine our identity, then it is very much important to understand from where to where we are identifying with. So be aware as a parent and see if your kid needs help. How will you know it? If the kid is getting into isolation, decreasing in grades, in losing interest in doing things, sleeplessness, getting anger fast, or getting into self-harm, be aware for it. Be proactive parent. But no, don't be an overprotective parent. Let that kid has his or her own experiences of life. Teach them coping skills by making him connected to the community service, and that way making him more interested in acts of kindness. Tell him to voluntarily help others. That will create this value system in them. Make them create a gratitude journal and teach them to forgive quickly. How to forgive quickly? Gastonji already said that understand that everybody has his own reason behind the person does it. Everybody has his own map of reality, and people don't respond to reality, they respond to their map of reality. So that's why forgiving them, be mindful, remain in present, teach kids some kind of meditation, bhakti yoga, so that people can remain in present, be best version of themselves. And how they will be best version of themselves? One, tell them to understand what they love the most, and second, what are their gifts, and let them work over their gifts and what they love the most. Because when they do their own swadharma, what they are actually good at, they will really excel in life. And teach them, and not only for kids, everybody of us. If, for example, I am unable to share what I am feeling like, then I will feel that contraction within me. And that contraction will create energy block. Energy block will create physical block and will lead to many diseases. And that's why it is important to create a non-judgmental environment. And understanding this, that kids can create their own ways of living, creating a happy place at home so that we all can be happy living together. Teach kids patience. It's very important. Not only teach kids patience, have patience. doing things which is right rather than what feels good, and letting go, accepting. And the best way we can do is to behave like this, because parents are the role models. If we really behave, if all these things we discuss is there in our behavior, certainly our kids will also pick up. Always be there with them. Don't talk about kids, talk to kids. That is more important. Spend time in talking to them, be there with them. That is most important, because kids today will be parents tomorrow. And a happy kid today will be a happy parent tomorrow, and happy parents tomorrow will bring a happy world tomorrow. Thank you very much, everybody. Namaste. Thank you very much, respected guests. Thank you.